Hello, my mathematicians. This is Miss Foster with Math in Focus, Grade 4, Chapter 7, Lesson 2, Understanding Decimal Place Value. In our last lesson, we really looked at tenths, and today we're going to spend some time with our hundredths. But the big ideas are the most important here. We're taking everything we know about our place value system, and we're marrying it to fractions, everything we just learned. Place value plus fractions equals decimal love forever. So, like I told you, you only need to know tenths and hundredths for 4th grade. But just like the place value system for whole numbers can go on and on and on forever, it also is true that for decimals it can go on and on and on forever. So let's play with some hundredths today. So once again, you're going to see a lot of different models and pictures of how we could show or represent decimals, specifically hundredths. And if you look at this square, it might remind you of that 100 flat we have in the classroom. In fact, I believe that this is broken up into 100 equal pieces. And so it will allow us to examine 100ths. But here's another thing I know. I know that every one of these whole lines here represents a tenth. So if I wanted to count these quickly, and the whole thing here were the single one, I would say that I don't have any single ones. There's my decimal point. But I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tenths. And if I look at my hundredths here, I'm just missing 1, so that would be 9. Now, one of the tricks to learn when dealing with decimals is how do we even say their names? Here's how you do it. Whenever you're saying a decimal name, you're always going to land on whatever the lowest place of value is. So we would call this 69 hundredths because the 9 is in the hundredths place and that is our lowest place of value. I can of course express 69 as hundredths, but I can't do it very well with tenths. If in that case I would have 6 and 9 tenths. Oh my goodness, it just gets confusing that way. No. So we're always going to say the lowest place of value because that's what our denominator will be. Ooh, look at this one. Here's one whole thing. Let's drop that into our single ones place. Here we have just some pieces and parts and we'll give it a decimal point. But now what to do? I don't have any tenths here. I just have 2 missing from this tenth, which means I have 8 hundredths. Well, what do you think? Can I put the 8 right here? You might think, Miss Foster, in your last decimal lesson, you said that this would be 1 and 8 tenths. You were right. We can't put the 8 hundredths there because they're not hundredths, or they're not tenths, they're hundredths. And so once again, our hero 0 will be coming along to tell us that, you know what, there aren't any tenths here. Just like in the number 10, there are no single ones. And in the number 101, there are no tens. And in the number 101 and 100th, there are no tens or tenths. So that 0, we use it to say we don't got any of that. And that also helps me shove the 8 over into the hundredths place. We would say this is 1 and 8 hundredths. Ooh, here we have number lines again. It says, let's find the decimal these points represent. Well, here's 0, but whoa, this is different. There's nothing in the single ones place. This stands for 1/10. And that means if I keep going, this point stands for 2/10. So if I take 1/10 and divide it by 10, I get hundredths. So this right here would be 3 hundredths. So no single ones, no tenths, but 3 hundredths. Down here, whoa, look at this number line. I'll change colors for it. This is 2. This is 2 and 1/10. And this is 2 and 2/10. If we take a tenth and we chop it into 10 pieces, we have hundredths. So every one of these spaces on this number line represents 100ths. For this x, I have 2 single ones and 1/10 and 1, 2, 3, 4 hundredths. Now, to read this, we would take everything that is and call it hundredths. So 2 and 14 hundredths. That's how we name hundredths in the decimal place. Ooh, now we're going to mark the decimal, the hundredths, on a number line. So first take your measure of the number line, starts at 0 is here, 1/10 is here. Well, there are no single ones here, and there are also no tenths. So I think this has to be before 1/10. And I know this is 5 from yesterday, so that's 5/100ths, 6ths, 7, 8/100ths. That right there is 8/100ths on the number line. For this one, ooh, I've got 76/100ths. Well, here I have 7/10ths. Do you know something you're allowed to do in decimals? I'll have to knight you and give you this power next year, but you have it already. If you ever want to put a 0 right here, you're allowed to do that. The zeros are always there, and if I wanted to, I could even put one here. Now we don't, because we only need this guy to say, woohoo, wake up, we're dealing with pieces and parts and decimals. But sometimes it's helpful to think of this, instead of being 7/10ths, as 70/100ths, 80/100ths, 90/100ths. This is 76/100ths. It would go between 70/100ths and 80/100ths. So this would be 75/100ths, and this would be 76. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ooh, here it's 3 and 45/100ths. And once again, if I just choose to put a 0 here, I could change 3 and 3/10ths in my own thinking into 3 and 30/100ths. It's always there. But when the people made this number line, they didn't think they needed to put it there. You are always allowed to add as many zeros to the right of the decimal point as you want. When we are all back at school, I will come to see you in 5th grade. I will wear my crown and my royal robes. I will bring my foam sword, and I will knight you, and I will give you the power forever and ever. You have the right to write as many numbers to the right of the decimal point as you like. I'm just going to have to do it virtually this year. Here we have 3 and 40/100ths. Sorry for writing over that. 3 and 4/10ths is the same as 3 and 40/100ths. And here we have 3 and 5/10ths, if I put a 0 there, and 3 and 50/100ths. So I'm trying to figure out 3 and 45/100ths. It's got to be bigger than this one. And I'm going to put the X right there, because I know that extra long line, it's that halfway point. Ooh, here we are with our little decimal chips here. Fun, fun, fun. No single ones. I'm going to go right ahead, put that 0 there. Hey everybody, we're dealing with decimals. 3/10ths. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/100ths. But of course, we don't call this 3/10ths and 5/100ths. We call it 35/100ths. Whatever that lowest decimal point is, that lets you know what the denominator would be in a fraction. Ooh, okay, I've got 2 single ones, and then this black line in Math and Focus means that's where the decimal point goes. We're switching to those pieces and parts. That's 5 plus 1 is 6. And whoa! That's so many of them! Oh no, what are we gonna do? Wait! The superpower of place value is dun-da-da-da! Regrouping! Time to do some regrouping. So if these are in strips of 5, maybe you remember those handy dandy 10 frames from when you were in 1st grade, that's a group of 10. So I've got to get out my trusty eraser. Mathematicians love erasers. And I don't just have these 6/10ths. I'm going to regroup these and make it 7/10ths and 1/100th. And I would read this 2 and 71/100ths. Ooh, here we're going from fractions to decimals. 35/100ths. I would put a 0 here because we don't have any whole single ones. And then I would write 35, and it naturally puts it all into the right places. Ah, place value, I love you so much. Ooh, this is weird. 3 liters equals, If you wanted to write this in the hundredths place, and you'll see us do this with money, you can choose to put those 2 zeros there. This is 3 and 0/100ths. And I know you've seen us do this with dollars. Sometimes it's also a really handy thing to do with liters or any kind of metric measurement. Here we have 308 or 1/100ths of a mile. That looks like an improper fraction to me. And that means I can simplify it. So if there are 100 in each mile, hundredths of a mile, and I have 300 of them, that would be 3 whole miles right there. And my decimal point. Now, 8 of them, can I put that 8 right there? That should be looking hinky to you. You're saying, no, 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 Miss Foster. That is 3 and 8/10ths, and that's not what we have here. We have 3 and 8/100ths. So once again, I must call upon our friend, our hero 0, who just gets right in there and pushes that 8th, boing, over into the hundredths place. 3 and 8/100ths. 61/100ths in a fraction here. Well, no single ones because it's not an improper fraction. There's my decimal point. And if I just put my 61 right there, bam, already 61/100ths. Ooh, look, some word form. This'll be fun. 2/10 and 9/100ths. Well, no single ones there, so I'll get my place value 0 there, my placeholder. And then 2 goes in the tenths place, and 9 goes in the hundredths place. And booyah, 29/100ths. 8/1 and 4/100ths. I'm going to write it over here just because I have more room. Well, there's my 8/1s. The decimal point goes between the whole numbers and the pieces and parts. The hundredths place. This 4 needs to be in the hundredths place, so I'm going to remember my hero 0. That will let us know there are no tenths. And it will just sort of push that 4 over into the hundredths place where it belongs. A place for everything, and everything in its place. Ooh, we're going to express the decimals as hundredths. That means that we're just going to use this word to say what they are. 23/100ths. You just treat them as whole things. Ooh, but what about this one? This is almost like a mixed number. Well, if we're dealing with hundredths, there are 100/100ths in each single one. So I would just have to write down 400/100ths right there. 401/100ths. I hope I said that right. Ooh, missing numbers here, breaking all these different big numbers into pieces and parts. 67 and 9/100ths, and this is that word form, is 6/10, 7/1, and 9/100ths. Now, if you wanted to put 0/10 in there, you can, but you don't have to. 200 or 2 and 75/100ths would be the same as 2 whole ones, 7/10, and I've got to get the hundredths over there. I'll use my hero 0 to shove that 5 over into the hundredths place. Let's take a look at this one. 7 and 25/100ths. Well, there's my 7. The 20 here could be simplified into 2/10. If we have 20/100ths, don't they share a common factor of 10? And so I could divide it by 10/10. And this is going back to our fractions work that we just did. And I would be, well, 20 divided by 10 is 2, and 10 divided by 10 is 10. So that would be 2/10. Now, I bet some of you are thinking, ooh, Miss Foster, 10 and 2 share another common factor of 2. And if we divide it by 2/2, then we will get down to 1/5, and that's its simplest form. And if you told me that, I would say to you, oh, honey, you have just made me so happy with how much you understand fractions. But we are dealing with our base 10 place value system. So this is a situation where by not simplifying it all the way, we actually make our lives simpler. So 2/10 goes right there. And then this 5 is in the hundredths place, and so I'm going to give it a denominator of hundredths. Ooh, I've got to hurry up before I run out of time. So once again, we're using this word form. The digit 8 is in the tens place. I'm just going to say this out loud. The digit 2 stands for 2/10, and you could write this as either a fraction or a decimal. The value of the digit 9 is 9/100ths. I'm going to just throw that on there as a fraction for you. Either way would be fine. Oh my goodness! And now we come to another connection your brain could make. That when we're writing with money, the cents are always hundredths because 1 penny is 1/100th of a dollar. So in dollars, we would say we could write 35 cents in this way as 35/100ths of a dollar. 50 cents we would write as this way. And because the penny is our smallest coin, we would put a 0 here. I almost made a mistake, but we can put a 0 there. We always do, even if we don't need one. 9 cents would be 0 and no dimes, 9 cents. $9.15, there's that handy dandy decimal point. And I hope that you're making some connections from money last year. I just did money with my third graders this year. $2.40, 2 whole dollars, the decimal separating the bills from the coins, and 40 cents. And when we're dealing with money, we always put a 0 in the hundredths place. Hundredths place, sorry. $24, you've seen this before. That's enough, but when we're dealing with decimals, you'll often see this written with no dimes, no pennies. $56.05.